So Norman, what's a fest contract?
So, a fest is Austria, Germany, Switzerland. They have a localized ensemble of singers that are, every opera house has. They're salaried employees. They're connected and contracted directly to the theater. And so the theater then, they plan their seasons, they plan their repertoire for every season, and then they basically cast that repertoire from the ensemble of singers that they have. Generally, a lot of the standard repertoire that a theater would do every year, like Così and Magic Flute and Barber of Seville and Hansel and Gretel and Bohème and Traviata, generally they contract or they cast that from their ensemble. And then if they want to, or if they do repertoire that they don't have in their ensemble, they'll hire guests.
Yeah.
And if you want to do any freelancing work, any outside work, because you're contracted to specifically that theater, you have to ask for permission first.
Yeah, you actually have to ask for permission to even go. I think.
Actually, yeah, you have to get.
I want to say like a 20-kilometer radius away from the theater.
You have to get a release. Technically, you have to get a release for a day or two.
Fun.
Technically, that's true.
Yeah.
So that's what it is. What they're for.
When I got my contract, I had an agent, but I had no experience, and I was still pretty young. I was in my mid-20s, and so mid to late 20s. So he said, look, we need to get you experience, and you're still kind of young. So actually, we first tried to do young ensembles. We already talked about that I auditioned for several German companies actually trying to get into their young artist ensemble, and was not accepted. And I thought, well, that's weird. And so then we just started auditioning for regular work, whatever. And then I got my first couple of freelancing engagements. And, but I still didn't some of the places I was auditioning were so big, I didn't have the self-confidence and the experience to really master that. So he thought, why don't you do a fest, build up some experience, and then after a few years, we'll relaunch you into a freelancing career. So that was our rationale when I tried out for the fest contract.
Yeah. That's the deal. I mean, it's the best things to do with them. You build repertoire. There are a lot of uses for them.
Yeah.
You can build repertoire. You build performance experience. You can use it to increase your personal profile, the platform for your personal profile. It can be a stepping stone to the next level of if you want to go into a freelancing career, or it does provide a stable lifestyle because you're a salaried employee. You get a monthly paycheck.
No, there's no age range. No.
And there's no age range.
No.
Exactly.
There's no. But okay, so
so let me see. But what was else?
What are they? So we pretty much covered what they are. What they're for. So I mean, in the past, people kind of stayed in one theater. I'm talking about past, not me the last 20 years or so.
Yeah.
But what people did was they stayed in one theater. So it would be you would be fest in the Vienna State Opera. And I'm pointing, it's down the street there. You'd be fest at the Vienna State Opera. You would do all your roles there. You would be full time there. And then, let's say you would do summers in Salzburg or whatever. And then if your career got huge, you would go to the Met or something, whatever. But that's not really how they work anymore. I mean,
the idea now. I mean, people can spend up to, because technically once you reach 15 years in one theater, you're technically automatically supposed to go into a special.
It's called Unkunbar. You're Unkunbar, which means you cannot be fired.
You cannot be fired. It's like you're tenured.
You're tenured.
That's right.
This isn't across the board, but what has been happening more frequently is that people are actually being let go as they get closer to that.
Yeah.
So, and not always, because we know some of our colleagues have been made unkunbar in Leipzig.
But it's definitely increasingly rare.
Yes, because then the state has to pay their salary for the rest of their lives until they go into retirement.
Yep.
So that's a bit frustrating, I suppose, for people who have dedicated their whole careers to one theater.
Yeah. But we also know people who they did, which is they did it, and that was amazing. So
it's sort of
it's just something to keep in mind.
Okay, so these are the 4 questions we're answering today, right?
Yeah.
And what I wanted to say was, what are they for? What is a fest? You've said one of your pet peeves is, how can I say this? I don't want to be rude, but it's like sometimes well-intentioned managers will say, people in business will go say, go do a fest. Because the freelancing career isn't picking up quickly enough. So that is one strategy to increase your freelancing career, but it has to be managed extremely well or it won't have that effect. In fact, it can just give you, it's kind of like, if I use like a analogy of like your closet, it'd be like having a ton of like seasonal pieces that don't all go together. Does that make sense? And so that's the danger in doing a fest contract without the right kind of support. Now, in my case, I think we should just talk about this a little bit because this is where you and I totally had a different experience.
Yeah, I mean now our experiences and
So in my case, because it was really like I had no profile, not really. I have the voice that I have, and you guys know about that whole story. I just was kind of going in there. And this is a bit more detailed, maybe we'll put this onto the website, but in your contract, you need someone who really helps you differentiate what you're going to sing, which roles you're going to sing, because mine just said soprano, which means technically they could have, within reason, okay? They're not gonna make you sing Gioconda and then Queen of the Night, hopefully. But technically they could have asked me for kind of any role that sort of fit into that fach. I believe yours said lyric tenor, so they couldn't go outside of those parameters. Is that correct? Do you remember?
I don't know as far as what the parameters were, but I know that I sang erste Fach, which is the first Fach, which means it's all the lead roles.
Yes, me too.
Which she did as well. And they did all remain in a lyric range, but it was quite broad.
But that has to actually be put in your contract. We had a question about, have you ever had to sing rep that wasn't for you? Mm-hmm. And just to give you guys an impression, the first role I was supposed to have sung was Papagena. And instead, I was pulled out of that and said, you're going to sing Al Gran Sole Carico d'Amore, which is Luigi Nono, which is basically like a cracked out Queen of the Night dramatic soprano all at the same time. Like I managed it, but it was like, whoa. So, and these kind of things happen in the fest. What was problematic for me is I didn't have my vocal identity. So I was just kind of doing a spectrum of roles. Mm-hmm. I did Handel for what's it called, coloratura mezzo. Yep. I did Frasquita, I did Fior di Ligi, I did Mahagoni, I did Wagner, I did Strauss, I did like all the Fachs, all the stuff, all the things, high notes, low notes, coloratura, and after 3 years, my voice had started to sort of develop out into what it is now, except I didn't have a voice teacher and I didn't have guidance. And I really didn't know what to do. And so when the offer came for the 4th season, it wasn't that I didn't like the offer, it was totally fine. But I simply thought I am not going to develop vocally the way I need in this particular setting because I just don't know what I'm doing well enough. And so that was part of my experience in the Fach. In the soprano overall Fach and in the fest contract, partly because I didn't have an agent at the time.
That's right, Judd, it is.
Also advocating, because partway through my contract, I stopped having management. And so that was another problem with it. And then your experience, you had a very good manager.
Mine, I was very fortunate. I had a good manager, and so when I went in, the contract that I had were the roles that were going to help me because I I did go in, and one of the most important things that we want to talk about just specifically, besides what they are and kind of what they do, is that it has to be a plan. It can't be random.
Yeah.
And so, hey Daniel. When I went in, my goal was for the fest was, okay, I need to figure out if I can actually do this. At the job,
Yeah.
period. Not can I go out and freelance all over the place. I mean,
And
I was planning towards freelancing, but at the same time.
And you had already been freelancing all over the world for 3 years.
And I had already freelanced, but I didn't know necessarily, I didn't know how to do the job. And this is another talk, but I had to learn, so my goal with doing the fest was, okay, can I actually do the job?
Yeah.
And can I be a professional? So that's what my goal was going into it. And that's why I told my agent once I started, I said, leave me alone. I don't want to do auditions, just let me alone work. So, but the advantage of the agent that I had was that when they negotiated my contract, which is really, it's very important how that contract negotiation, especially for a fest, is really important. Because it not just determines the kind of money, but it determines the kind of work you're going to do, the repertoire, the roles, all of that, and even can say, okay, where are they going to be in a few years if they're not here now?
Yes.
So, and so for me, it was that kind of a goal, and then I worked from there. So,
and I would say, gosh, there's so much to cover.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's why we wanted to stay really basic, because I made a lot of notes. But we wanted to keep it really foundational, which was basically what are they for? The main thing, one of the big things is a fest isn't for everybody.
That's right.
A fest isn't for everybody. A fest is, especially if you're from North America, you're having to travel a long way. You're going to a different culture. You're going into a language that you don't understand. And, your life is changing. And, if you're going to do this career, there will be sacrifices that you make. It's like anything else, any job. If you want to achieve, you'll make sacrifices.
That's right.
That's another reason why the goal and the plan is so important, because you have to kind of judge, is the sacrifice I'm making worth the payout that I'll be getting? That's the important part, because for some people, fest is fantastic. It's great and it absolutely accomplishes what you need it to, what you want it to. Other people, we know people that fest has not helped very much.
Yeah.
So, so those are just kind of the things to consider.
I would say, because I think a lot of the people that engage with our material online are people that want to have an active freelancing career. I would say the majority, I would guess.
I mean, yeah, I think.
So I'm going to address those people. Because I know that there are some people who want to just kind of have a stable, normal life and just want to kind of be in one place, and the fest can provide that for you for a window of time.
Yep.
But for those of you who are really pursuing an active freelancing career,
and that's great, by the way, the whole, if you want to share, that's fantastic.
Like for me and Norman, the thing is, when we decided to leave, it's not because we didn't like our theater. I mean, we had great salaries, we had great jobs, we had all of that. I mean, it was cool. We had great colleagues, and we got to work with the Gewandhaus Orchestra. I mean, it was super. Yep. But it wasn't going to accomplish what we needed it to accomplish for what our long-term goals were. And we were about to get married. I was wanting to do more performances to get more experience. He needed to do fewer because his freelancing career was starting to open up a bit more again. So we saw that, okay, this particular constellation isn't going to give us what we need in the long term. And, and I remember even saying to Norman, I didn't come all this way from home to just be in one place now for the next 15 years. Part of what I want to get out of this experience is traveling, is engaging with different cultures, getting those kind of experiences. So that went into our decision making. Anyway, so for those of you who really want an active freelancing career, the best way and time to do a fest is when you have a manager that can really help you plan it, I think. And then you have a goal saying, let's say like for me where I am right now, because I'm really happy with how I'm singing and my voice is very stable and I have a good technique. If I had the opportunity to do a fest right now, I would say, okay, I would love to have these 4, 5, 6 roles under my belt, because I could foresee myself traveling around as a freelancer, doing those roles again, and I'll already have the experience. And so that is a very sort of clear, focused reason to do a fest. And you'll know, because, do I really want to talk about this? How can I say this? You want to, everywhere you go, you want to be bringing your best work, your best energy, your best effort. And I think that when you have a focused goal in mind, it's much easier to achieve that. Sometimes when you get into an ensemble setting over a long period of time, I think that a bit of that sort of excitement can go away. And so the atmosphere might not be as good as when you're freelancing. But if you go in saying, look, I'm about to dedicate the next 2 to 3 years into this house 100%. I want to get Elsa, Ava, Zalome, whatever, whatever other roles I sing, whatever. I want to get all of those under my belt. I want to get them with the orchestra. Good coaching, all of that. Then that is totally worth it. And then a fest is a great place to achieve that quickly. But if you're still sort of searching for your voice and you don't have the right kind of manager that understands the real purpose of a fest, I think that can be less beneficial in the long term from a strategic standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, because what can end up happening is if you go into a fest and you want to be a freelancer, but you're either very young, and so the voice hasn't come into certain things yet, or it's in the flux, then you won't get out of the fest what you needed.
Yeah.
Because what you need is there's that aspect of, okay, I know what I'm doing here. I need to take now that I know what I'm doing with my voice and this, I need to be able to take that, apply it to repertoire, and perform it.
Yeah, I mean, like we saw that happening in your career. I can think of 2 super clear examples where the fest absolutely did that for you. You sang Tamino, and now you sung Tamino a lot, but you had sung it at that level, you sang consistently and well, and then you sang it in Bregenz, and that was one launching point for your career.
Yes.
You did Lenski really well in Leipzig also, and then that was another point for your career. So I think without those experiences, it might have had a change on your freelance career.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Guys, if you have any questions, bring them in, because we're about to end this. But I'm just trying to see if there's anything else, because you made so many amazing notes, so we're gonna have to make this.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it
was really long.
It was very long. That's why because there are a ton of questions you can lay out in this. So
there really is. A lot. There's a lot to think about. I think the point you made, that you have to really consider your whole life. Can I just say how much I appreciate this? I binged all your YouTube videos yesterday. I feel so inspired. Also unrelated, Norm's hair is popping and Sue looks amazing.
That's funny.
Victoria, you're such a sweetie, and I'm so excited for you with all your auditions that you're doing.
Yeah, tear it up.
And it's just super exciting.
Good luck. Hey, Amanda. Watley.
I think that's really sweet. I'm really grateful for that. We're happy to do this for you guys, and it's really beneficial for us also to think about all the experiences that we've had and what works, what doesn't work, and just to put it out there, because this is a really amazing art form. It can be a really exciting job, and there are things that we can do to make it healthier and more beneficial. Okay, so basically I need an agent. Yes. Do you think it is mandatory for German agents that you had a fest experience before? No. This has been so educational. Thank you. Yeah, guys, it's super important to have an agent that you can really work with, and you guys have a plan. My biggest question is, how do you know when to start thinking about fests? Okay, so should I field that? Do you want to field that? I'll just field it.
You field away, and then if I feel there's anything,
I'll just do it. Okay.
I'll throw it in.
So I think that within our relationship, you can see, how can I say this? So when I was doing a fest, it was because I just really needed a job.
Yeah,
Norman did a fest with a very specific goal in mind, and it has had an effect on both of our freelancing careers. So I think the time to do a fest is when you can see yourself singing and building the same repertoire for a good 5-year window, and you're able to do those roles in the fest for like 2 to 3 years, and then you can build in your freelancing career for this couple of seasons after that. And the reason you need an agent is because you need an exit strategy that you can't do yourself. You need somebody on the ground that says, well, you know, they just sang XYZ in this theater, it went really well, you know. And
really important. And exit strategy.
Yeah, and for me, I didn't have that, so I left the fest with not so many usable roles because my voice changed, and nobody can foresee that, and nobody can be upset about that. That's neither their fault or my fault. That's just literally what happened. And in Norman's case, his fach was already sort of solidified.
Yeah.
And so he came out with several usable roles.
Yeah,
not all of them, but several.
Yeah, when I started, when I went in, and actually, just on a side note, 5-year blocks of planning are good blocks.
Yeah, as much
3 to 5 years.
Yeah. Just want to read out Victoria's comment.
Yep.
There's so many steps that seem empirical and build atop each other. As an American singer, there's so much focus on young artist programs here. Yaps. I'm worried when I'm supposed to dip my toes in. Yeah. So you need someone to kind of set up transitional opportunities. Yes.
Yeah.
That is part of what you and your agent do together. Is you say, okay, I'm in this rep. I mean, once you find your rep, it brings a lot of rest because you say, okay, I'm going to be kind of in this for the next 5 to 10 years with not a lot of deviation, because that's when it starts to get frustrating. And you see many of our colleagues who have huge careers, they've had to go through this in the public eye. And we've talked about that before, how difficult that is and how incredible they are, that they're able to do it with the entire weight of the business sitting on their shoulders. That's so hard. But every singer goes through vocal transitions, and you need somebody who really understands voices too. This is really hard to find, but you know, the best situation is when you find somebody who really gets voices, and they can kind of project and see you 5 to 10 years down the road and say, you know, I really hear that. How do we get from here to there? What are going to be the pivotal strategic roles that we can do between now and then? I mean, it's sort of like, for me, I didn't think even like 2 or 3 years ago that something like, I might make some people think I'm crazy now, but like something like Brunhilde would be in my future. But because of this...
She's not crazy, just so you know.
Well, but we didn't know because we didn't know how the voice was going to grow, right? And so, but actually, okay, let's say that is 15 years down the line or whatever. What do you do between now and then? Well, you know, you sing Hemviga. That's what I do now. Then you sing Sieglinde, then you build to that. And so it's all very much in line. You know, if let's say you have a big dramatic coloratura, lyric coloratura voice, and people are projecting something onto you, like you would end your career with, I don't know what, like, sorry, Trovatore or something like that. Well, you start with Norina, and then you sing Traviata, and then you sing Trovatore. You know what I mean? It's all a progression. Let me see what else.
The slicer.
So you need someone kind of set up. Yes, okay. Got it. Thanks so much. The slicer. Yeah, slicing it. Just slicing it. So I think that is the fest in its best case scenario sets you up for that.
Yeah. Fest best case scenario, but you have to have it in mind.
Yes.
You need it in mind. Even when you start, before you start, you need it in mind. Say, okay, I need that to be over there. I need this here. And then you're talking with your agent. I mean, like I said, for me, I started the fest. I told my agent to leave me alone. But then, after a couple years, when I figured out, okay, I can, then now we start looking for freelance again.
Yes.
And that's how that kind of works. What's the difference in building career in the U.S. and Europe? This is a huge topic. This is actually another talk all by itself.
Maybe that should be for next week.
We could do that next week.
Would people enjoy that topic? I think they would.
Yeah. One of the most important, I'll say it this way, because we live in Europe and America is a whole another world in opera. Yes.
Well, let's do it like a quick soundbite on that. Okay. What I would say to that is that every market has to be built.
Yep.
Each market needs its own attention. Germany is its own market. The United States is its own market. France is its own market. And so it means there needs to be a strategic push in each place at the right time. Some of this will be based on stuff that you might never think about, like treaties between different countries, which means workers can work more easily because of visa processes. See, sometimes it has nothing to do with your voice. They took that singer because they literally didn't have to get a work permit for them. You know what I'm saying? You need to know about stuff like that because it's gonna like just relieve a lot of stress and anxiety. Sometimes they didn't take you because they didn't like how you sang, but like there's other weird factors that you haven't considered and you can only learn by doing the job.
That's right.
But you have to build each place up strategically because this is about personal relationships. This whole business is built on personal relationships. And yeah, sometimes if you're, well, anyway, I won't go down that road. Anyway, it's fine. Go on.
Opinion, if you do fast, you already know your fuck.
You said in your opinion, if you do a fest, it's better to do it when you already know your fuck. You also, no. I did not. My voice started to change. Okay, sorry, I need to just read this comment again.
Basically say that it can be either dangerous or build. Yes, it can.
Yeah,
actually.
it can be dangerous or it can help you build. That just has to do with your technical ability at the time. It has to do with your support system, your team. It has to do with where you are emotionally, physically, all of that.
But it has to do with a lot of things that we didn't talk about today. Because it's a big subject. That goes into, I mean, when you talk about is it a dangerous thing, is it a building thing? It depends completely on the parameters with which you go into the contract.
Yes.
And that's a whole other thing. That's why we just kind of wanted to start with this because it literally can be dangerous or it can be building. We've seen, and I'm a product of it being building. We've seen a lot of other people where it has not built and they've not.
And it didn't damage me at all, but I could
not
feel that my voice was shifting in a direction
Yeah.
and the roles I was being offered because I was kind of in the light lyric fach. And I'm just trying to think, what year is this, 2019? We left in 2012.
Yeah.
And so that's not that big of a window to go from literally singing Frasquita to now singing Elsa. So I don't think I could have necessarily gotten to Elsa if I had stayed singing those roles. And so the vocal development might not have happened in those parameters. And also, I spent a couple of years extensively studying with a voice teacher and not performing because I could feel just something like coming out and I was like, oh, what is this? And so if I had been singing the light lyric fach at the same time, I don't think that development would have happened, which is part of why I felt like I needed to give up the position, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So what do you think, because the best time, what do you think?
What is the best time? Different for every person. It's different for every person. Literally, it is different for every person. And also what you say at the end where markets are all different, that's true. Where you will maybe sing heavier repertoire in a European house that's smaller, you won't sing the same repertoire in a larger house, in literally a physically larger house.
Yeah.
So that is true. As far as when is a good time, it really just depends on your development, and that's an individual thing for sure.
I mean, didn't Rosa Ponsal sing Forza when she was 21?
She did, and
so
they all did. But that was a different time. That doesn't. But we don't. Sadly, we don't do it. Partly sadly, we don't do it like they did it then. But anyway, so
I think. Sorry, is your name Zlata? Am I saying that right? Sorry. There is no one size fits all solution, which is partly why it's great because there's many ways to make this career.
Yeah.
When you were doing this focus work with your teacher during the transition, did you perform? How did you manage it financially? No, I didn't perform because people didn't hire me, but I always tried. I went to auditions and stuff like that. Well, we were married and Norman was working.
Oh, Goldie. I like that. Zlata.
Yeah, I know. Well, I know that's what it means.
That's fabulous.
I know that.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
You're fine.
Excuse me. So.
No, we were married, and I followed Norman all over the world, and I was his wife. I think we've covered that in some of our earlier videos.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, Aaron. And one of the things that we try to mention, I think, at least hopefully ever so often, is that there are things that are that everybody's going to experience in this career, and then there are other things that are going to be specifically yours, or the timing for everything is going to be different depending on the person. So you've got so many things that come together. When we talk about Fest, it can be a great idea, or it can be the wrong idea.
Yeah.
And so that's where it's individual. So what we're trying to do specifically with this or with anything else is that give you a few things that are foundational things that you can totally use for everybody, and then you can apply those things to yourself and go from there, and hopefully it's helpful for you to make those decisions. We actually have a lot more on this, but
you're gonna finish it. And
I'm gonna finish it, and
publish it.
I'm probably gonna publish it as an article, to where people can read about it. And if you have more questions on it, please send them in, because it helps us when we're writing it out to know specific questions, because then if we forget something, oh hey, yeah, we can address that. So yeah, if you think about it, feel free to send it.
But I just want to say this, and I think we're going to close out.
Yeah.
We're just two people who have a great time, Bonnie. Bye. This is your journey. It's your path. Hey, Nikki. This is your life. And so we can tell you about our experiences. We can tell you about what worked or didn't work for us. And you might have a totally different experience.
In fact, you probably will.
Yeah. And I just don't want any of you to ever feel like you're stuck. Like stuck by anything that we say or by what anybody else says to you. Yeah. Because what I've learned is that sometimes it's just your time. And you know when it's your time. And other times it's not. And you can just be pushing against every door and they won't open.
They won't fall down.
And one day they do.
Yep.
And
you just got to keep going.
I just felt like I needed to say that. Okay, one more question and then we're gonna jump off. How did you get an agent in the first place? Did your teacher guide you to find an agent? Oh girl, have you not watched my other videos? I know you haven't. Sorry, I'm just being sassy, but okay, real brief.
30 seconds.
Yes. Go. I came over,
Just kidding.
I sold all my possessions. I thought I was gonna go study. At the last minute, the teacher told me I had no future and I would never make a career. And I was like, I don't accept that. And I was like, no, I'm so sorry. Appreciate your opinion about me, but that's not it. And I had some friends. I knew some people over here in Europe, but I was like literally just over here with like no plan, no teacher, no degree program, no agent. I couldn't speak German. I was like, well, this sucks. And through an extraordinary circumstance, I met a pianist, and I just heard him playing one day, and I was like, how does he play like that? And I was mesmerized by the playing. So I went up to him, I was like, how do you play like that? And he said, if you want to know how to play like that, so rude. I was like, how do you play like that? I want to know how you play like that. Yeah, I know, that was like a super rude teacher, I know. And he's like, if you want to know how to play like that, come to my house and I'll teach you how to play like that. Or sing like that. I said, I want to know how to do with my voice what you do on the piano. He said, okay. So I would go to his house a couple times a week, and I would just watch him play, and he'd be like, now show me something with your aria, and he'd teach me about musicality and all this kind of stuff. At the end of I think a year of these pretty odd kind of lessons, he was like, let's do a house concert of all the stuff that we've worked on this year. And I was like, all right. So we did, and I literally got discovered in someone's living room. Yep. That's how it happened for me.
There you go.
I didn't do a young artist program. I didn't have a teacher. So every person has their own way, I'm telling you. It's just, and that was mine. And if you go back on our older videos on YouTube, they're all there for you. You can go listen a bit about my story. It's just a miracle that I'm here at all. I think the ones of you who have been with us on the journey know, a bit of how extraordinary it is that I'm even here. So, what? There's a lot that says, can you please? Yes. Is there a second part? You're probably typing. Bless your heart.
Thank you guys for watching.
Yes.
And asking stuff. Yeah. That's fun.
Yeah. That's cool. That's cool. But go back and listen to the old videos.
Yeah.
Can you please say something about young artist programs in the U.S.? Go ahead, Norman.
So I did one. I did a young artist program. I did the Houston young artist program. They are different. For me, I mean, it's very specific. I mean, it's very specific training.
What did they do actually?
We went in. I did both small roles. I did also big roles. You take a language. You have a voice teacher. You do coachings, and then you perform, and that's kind of what you do. And
And they do audition training.
They do audition training.
Can I
some
give
fight
you,
training,
can I give you
stuff
my
like this.
outside sum up on the point of young artist?
We
program?
could do a whole live. She
On
wants
young
to do a
artist
live about young artist program.
Hi.
We can do that. We can
We'll do
absolutely do it. Go ahead. Give what's your hey.
There's your daddy.
There's my dad.
This is just my, and like I said, guys.
What are you about to do right now?
I'm not about to do anything, but well, you know what I'm about to do. I'm gonna be like, appreciate your young artist program, appreciate this, appreciate that, but I don't know. I didn't do any of that stuff, and both work. Young artist programs. The best part about young artist program after the training is that those opera houses oftentimes support the career of that singer later on. And so it's an awesome thing, because if you do the Met Young Artist Program or Houston or LA or whatever, and you make a good freelance career, they will continue to hire you back, which is something, just tying back into our conversation with Fest contracts, I have not found that to be as prevalent in the Fest experience, that there isn't that same sort of building up and loyalty necessarily. I might be wrong about that, but that's
the building up thing is it's a different. I mean, because partly with the young artist program, they're building. Hey,
you're welcome.
They're building up. They're educating you in a way, and so if you go out and are successful, it is good for their program.
Yes.
To say, hey, we trained this person. Especially if it's a high level,
it's a lot of, don't worry, girl. It's all okay. It's a lot of everybody else. All of these videos, I always edit them afterwards and make a fun little intro. So I got an app, and and I edit them. I put them onto YouTube. It's Living Opera with Soula and Norman. You can find them. You can subscribe there. And so literally as soon as this is done, I'm going to edit this. It's going to be available for replay. And we also have a website, which is www.livingopera.org. All the material is there. And sometimes when we actually have our lives together, we even make special articles for that place.
Crazy!
Yeah, we haven't done that in a little bit. But I've got 20 of them half started, which kind of irritates me.
I have
finish
two.
one.
I have
Just
two.
finish one.
I have
anyway,
two.
So it's all there for you. We're not stopping. So we're going to keep on it going. Send in your